A house of horrors discovered in Washington State. What are the implications? This is going to be a hard one, guys. Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America.
And you ain't black. I don't know what I said.
The first time ever any...
What are you people?
We're Americans.
We are Americans indeed. My name is Vincent. My partner in crime is laying down for a while. She's a bit under the weather, as they say. Shout out to Ben Moen. He's first. Maybe he finally got, Ben might have gotten notifications, which is great because he hasn't been getting notified. So this is good. We've got Moen here, we've got Tasco here, and we've got a situation that we've got to discuss that, to be honest with you guys, I have been avoiding since it came out. And shout out to the Black Queen watching us on the work break. OCO to my brother. Okay, guys. So what I want to do here is just deal with the facts. I don't know if you guys have heard this yet, but some of you are new to the channel. We're not left wing, we're not right wing. The fact of the matter is, right now in the media, there's been a lot of misinformation and disinformation. We know that. Russian propaganda, Ukrainian propaganda, Democratic propaganda, right-wing propaganda. And how do we know what's true? How do we know what's false? That's been a question I've really been dealing with. And to be honest with you, my perspective has shifted. I would say I supported YouTube deplatforming Alex Jones, etc., but I kind of haven't had an ambivalent sort of perspective on it. But over the recent years and recent moves by YouTube, deplatforming Chris Hedges, deleting Abby Martin's 600 of Abby Martin's videos, etc., being able to control narratives, I've shifted away from that. But the challenge and the question still stands. How do we know what's true, what isn't? And how can we be responsible creators, because we don't want to be people who are pushing out misinformation and disinformation. That's still important. Free speech is important, but it's also important to tell the truth. And there are times when misinformation can be the equivalent of yelling fire in a crowded theater, which I guess you could technically say is a form of misinformation. The conclusion I've come to, dear listener, is entrusting, 9 people on YouTube, Google, etc., to control the narrative and decide what's true and what isn't is dangerous. The conclusion I've come to is we should look at all these stories, no matter what the perspective is, and we should all together look at the facts on the board and come to a conclusion together. And that is the best, most responsible way to comment on these issues, as well as, in my opinion, our only hope of actually getting the truth. And so I've had my mind changed recently by the comment section, things of that nature. That's what we're going to do in Middle America. That's the best shot that we have. Okay. Having said that, I don't know how many of you heard about this, but there was a recent discovery of 5 fetuses in New York State. And so I want to talk about that. Let's get this up here. We got the New York Times. Hopefully that's visible for all you beautiful people to see. And let's discuss. Okay, so here we go. And let me know, guys, if you are hearing me okay on top of the music. Okay. All right. So let's read. The police said on Thursday that 5 fetuses had been removed from a home in Washington that, according to an anti-abortion group, belonged to an activist who was charged by the Justice Department this week, blocking access to an abortion clinic in October 2020. So these are these folks are hardcore. I mean, they've been charged with blocking access to an abortion clinic, and it was them actually that was found with the remains of the 5 fetuses. Now, I got to tell you guys, you guys know this is a issue that's close to my heart, and I just want to say, you Google fetus, the first thing that's going to pop up is right here. An unborn offspring of a mammal, in particular an unborn human baby more than 8 weeks after conception. That's what you see in the ticker here. Guys, a fetus is a baby, okay? A fetus is a baby. One of my issues with the abortion lobby, or a lot of my pro-choice friends, which obviously when you are fighting for Medicare for all and things like that, you end up on the quote on the left. One of my problems is the massaging of language. My thing is, if we're doing something, why can't we just come out and say what we're doing? Every other circumstance, it's a baby. The most basic definition is that a fetus, I guess it's an embryo, right, from conception to week 8, and then at week 8 and above, it's a baby. It's a fetus, and a fetus is simply an unborn human baby. That's literally the definition of the term. So that's one of the questions that I had as far as like self-examination. Why do we have to start speaking Latin all of a sudden whenever the topic of abortion is brought to bear? I do think that that's a question that should be answered by folks who purport to support the practice of abortion. But these, I heard this story actually from Anna Kasparian, and I kind of turned it off. It's a really, I've been at about, 6-7 childbirths, like been there. So the idea, and you guys, we're not showing any pictures, okay? So there are pictures circulating on the internet. I really advise against looking at them. I will read to you one of the descriptions, but I'm against you looking at them, and I'm against people posting them, to be honest with you. I think it's dishonoring and disrespectful to the child. But I do understand. I understand why. And look, if you're ever in the pro-life, if you're in the movement, the whole debate about using pictures and et cetera, et cetera. But we're not going to show them here. And if you're a woman, particularly if you're a woman who's had a miscarriage or an abortion, I definitely believe you should not look at the pictures, regardless of what side you're on. So yes, this was, according to the New York Times, the police said on Thursday that 5 fetuses, babies, had been removed from a home in Washington that, according to an anti-abortion group, belonged to an activist who was charged by the Justice Department this week. The Metropolitan Police Department of the District of Columbia would release only the address where the fetuses were found. Teresa Bukovinak, the founder and executive director of Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising, confirmed that the home belonged to Lauren Handy, 28, the group's director of activism, who was arrested and charged with federal civil rights offenses this week. It is her apartment, Ms. Bukovinak said, adding that the group would have more to say at a news conference on Tuesday. We are definitely going to reveal all the details on Tuesday, and they are explosive, Ms. Bukovinak said. Ms. Handy and Mary Petras, the lawyer representing her in the federal case, did not immediately respond to emails. Now, Ms. Bukovinak is, as you could guess, banned currently from Facebook. Unbelievable. But she is very, very fascinating because this is her profile, okay? Now, again, they call themselves progressive. the progressive pro-life group or whatnot. This is her. I wanted to show you guys this because it's a really fascinating take, because they're especially when you're thinking about the pro-life movement. There's a sort of stereotype, and I'd say a convenient stereotype. But check this out, guys. This is Teresa Buvanikic. I'm butchering her name, I'm sorry. But you notice here, she starts off with her pronouns. And animal human rights activist. She puts animal before human. Progressive pro-life atheist. Okay? She's got a video on YouTube, actually, where she says she is pro-life but anti-Trump. They really did a picture on her. A little thingamajiggy on her, and she's atheist. She complains about being alone in the community, but it was really fascinating to watch the video. We might watch the video. I don't want to take away from the story, but this is shattering this group. They're progressives. They're Medicare for all. You can see Black Lives Matter on her. She's got the hashtag Black Lives Matter as well. She is she's pro-life, but she's an atheist, and she's progressive. She has progressive. I mean, she's essentially like your brother, only your brother is a Christian. But I just thought it was really fascinating, because a lot of people have this perception that it's a bunch of stodgy right-wing men who are going out there and taking part in direct action and protesting and going to DC and all that. That's just simply not true. There is a rise of pro-life feminists, atheists, anarchists, etc., all over the place, and this group is just one example of that. In 2018, CNN came out with a report that said, "Open your eyes, pro-life feminists are everywhere." So I just want that was the first thing that really struck me, was like, wow, these folks are. They're feminists, they're pro-life, they're BLM, they're progressive, but they're obviously radically pro-life, obviously. Now, let's continue to read up on this topic. Like I said, it's a pretty gruesome topic. We're gonna try to get through it together and see what we can do about it. Okay, so let's continue. So they say this is going to be explosive. We're going to reveal it, etc., etc. In a statement on Friday, Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising said one of the individuals who had been charged was trying to turn the fetuses over to the police for an investigation. The group said they were in late gestational ages and in a condition that showed possible violations of the federal partial birth abortion ban, which bans certain medical procedures late in a pregnancy. The group also said a funeral mass and naming ceremony were held. The District of Columbia Police declined to comment. The television station WUSA reported that it had a camera outside Ms. Handy's home on Wednesday when Homicide and Forensic Service detectives removed evidence in red biohazard bags and coolers from the basement. Ms. Handy declined to say what was in the coolers, but had said that people would freak out when they heard. The police said that they had gone to the home around 12:30 p.m. on Wednesday to investigate a tip about potential biohazard material when officers found the fetuses inside. The fetuses were collected by the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, the police said, and an investigation was continuing. No charges have been announced in connection with the discovery. This is one of the things that's kind of weird to me, guys. Like, this is... you would figure that this is a situation where people would get arrested for that, but apparently that was not a law. I don't know, Larry, if she was ratted out. I don't know if she was ratted out or if this was a coordinated stunt. Like I said, I've been part of pro-life groups and situations like that. And believe me, if folks get extremely creative with trying to raise awareness. I read in an article somewhere that Miss Handy, the owner of the apartment, was actually the one that made the phone call. So I'm not sure. I don't know if she was ratted out. I don't know if this was part of their plan. I'm not sure. And I'll read you guys something really interesting about this as well in a moment. The fetuses were aborted in accordance with DC law, so we're not investigating this incident along those lines, Ashan M. Benedict, the executive assistant chief of police, said at the news conference on Thursday. There doesn't seem to be anything criminal in nature right now about that, except for how they got into the house. So we'll continue to look at that. So there you go. That's what happened. You had 5 fetuses. Nobody knows at this point how they got in line with getting those babies from wherever they got them to the house, but they're confirmed that all 5 of these babies are dead. The claim is that these are children in late stage, the later stages that they were aborted at. So much so that they violated, the argument is they violated the partial birth abortion law in Washington, D.C. I've seen one of the pictures. Very late stage. Very, very, very late stage. I can confirm to you, as somebody who's actually seen the pictures, that it's extremely late stage abortion. Extremely late stage. Okay. On that note, so that's what the New York Times had to say about it. Here is live action. Now, live action, guys, again, I'll put the link in the description. Please be careful, because actually I'm not going to put the link in the description because they have the pictures, and I don't want to be party to you even seeing the pictures. Physician experts have told Live Action News that 5 aborted children. See, again, this is the verbal engineering, right? If it's an outlet like New York Times, they're just gonna camp out on the term fetus, even though we know that fetus simply means baby. It's an unborn human baby post 8 weeks gestation. There's the definition right there. These guys are gonna say children. It just shows you why we need to look at all aspects of the media, because that is a subtle decision in verbiage, but it's also pretty obvious as to why, and that's why we have to look at everybody and everything, not just our particular group. Okay. That 5 aborted children in a DC apartment appear to have been viable human beings, raising questions about potential legal and serious ethical violations by the abortion clinic. Dr. Robin Perucci, a neonatal specialist, told Live Action News, "I can say with confidence that these babies died at an age when they were viable, premature people." In her Friday morning comment, she noted she was going to work in a NICU where she would care for little ones this size in age. During a Thursday press conference, DC police quickly dismissed the possibilities that the babies experienced illegal abortions, but declined to comment further when asked by Live Action News. Although DC doesn't ban late-term abortions, we will talk about that in a second. Medical professionals are still bound by federal laws which restrict the method of abortion and require life-saving care for infants born after botched procedures. Life-saving care is something Dr. Cesar Santangelo, who operates a facility where the discarded babies were discovered. They're saying discarded babies. At this point, I don't know how the babies were discovered. So this is, again, one of those situations where this could be true, that the babies were just discarded. It could be true, but they don't have anything definitive to tell us that that's exactly what happened or how this woman came to interface with these 5 babies. So again, I'm being a stickler, but you have to be, especially in massively emotional discussions like this, okay? Dr. Santagello has already said repeatedly that he either doesn't provide or avoids, meaning if you're trying to abort the baby, especially in late terms, and the baby somehow survives, apparently this man has said that he is not going to and he goes, okay, I'm going to tell you the truth, etc., etc. So if he tries to kill the child and the child somehow survives his attempt to kill her, then he would allow the baby to die, is what he just told this woman. Now, maybe there's other context. I'm assuming this is a live action Sting video. Like I said, these folks get extremely creative as to how they get this information out to the public. But if you've ever been in the pro-life movement, this has been a major sticking point. This gets talked about a lot, especially in states that don't have gestational limits or allow for super late term abortions. What if the child makes it out and survives? What then? And a lot of times they will just let that kid die, bleed to death, whatever. Those are facts. So this guy says that he's not going to provide it. A pro-life activist voluntarily informed the DC homicide unit of babies and surrendered them to the authorities. Okay, so again, that's what I said. Like, these guys, they're very creative. So I don't know if the ratting was on the other side. Like, it's very possible that somebody from the clinic was just so overcome with grief over what she saw, contacted these people went, got the bodies, and then she called and informed them and surrendered them to the authorities, because now we're having this discussion. I don't know. Like I said, that's what these folks do. It is disgusting to let the child die. I agree, but this is where we are. Okay. We continue. Why does this person have custody of 4 dead children, whatever you want to label them? Yeah, I mean, it was 5. So there you go. If you work at the clinic and see a crime, your first responsibility is to call authorities. Yes, Candy Apples, completely understand. River, as the police just said, there's no crime because, as we'll see in a moment, Washington doesn't have gestational limits. So as far as the doctor who killed these children, he or she is completely clear because there are no gestational limits for abortion in Washington state. We'll continue. A pro-life activist voluntarily, believes the late gestational ages as well as their apparent sustained injuries potentially show violations of the Partial Birth Abortion Act, as well as the Born Alive Infants Protection Act. This group also announced that a funeral mass and a naming ceremony was offered for the babies. Live Action president and founder Lila Rose said in response, the discovery of these bodies is horrific and disturbing evidence of the infanticide that may be occurring in this clinic within our nation capital and indicative of the violence happening in abortion facilities nationwide. Baby boy number 1. This is where they get into the description. And this is as much as we're going to read, and that's going to be the end of this article. Perhaps the largest and most developed baby found was a boy whose gestational age has been estimated to be around 28 to 32 weeks. Well within the 3rd trimester, past the point at which the majority of experts agree that preborn babies can feel pain. And beyond the point, many states have restricted abortions for medical and ethical reasons. For example, the Mississippi law that recently came before the Supreme Court limits abortion just 15 weeks based on concerns surrounding fetal development, pain, and other factors. Photos of the video of the first baby boy reveal that he remained largely intact, raising questions about how his life ended. He also has what appears to be fully formed face, fingers, toes, and all the primary features normally visible in a newborn. Okay. Now, here is Legal Voice. It's a pro-choice outlet in Washington State. There are questions that they have, and I think it's important to see this because a lot of people do not understand what is actually happening in our country in regards to the practice of abortion. So here it is, abortion rights in Washington State. Is abortion legal? Question number 1. Answer, yes. In Washington State, if you want or need to end your pregnancy, you have the legal right to have an abortion. It doesn't matter if you're a minor, an adult, married, gender nonconforming, an immigrant, incarcerated, or differently abled. Everyone in Washington State has a right to choose to stay pregnant or to have an abortion. There are some limits as to why you can get an abortion if you are late in your pregnancy. See the next Q&A. Can I have an abortion for any reason? You have the legal right to have an abortion for any reason before fetal viability. Fetal viability means that the fetus, baby, if born, could survive. That's at about 24 to 25 weeks into a pregnancy. You can still get an abortion after that if the abortion is necessary to protect your health or your life. So there are 6 states where late term, there are no gestational limits to abortion. If you and your doctor conclude that the baby is a threat to your life or your health. Now, there's a very important reason that they dichotomize life and health. The reason they do that is because of the language in the Supreme Court hearing. So everybody's familiar with Roe v. Wade, which really, Roe v. Wade was really about right to privacy. A lot of people think that Roe v. Wade, that they explicitly came out and they were talking about abortion, but in reality, Roe v. Wade was about right to privacy. Doe v. Bolton actually deals specifically with the quote-unquote right to abortion, etc. And I do think that Doe v. Bolton is important for people to see, to understand why the Guttmacher Institute, Planned Parenthood, what we just saw in the Washington Health site, why they made the dichotomy between life and health. Here we go. So this is the actual opinion from Doe v. Bolton. And this is specifically dealing with the concept of health as a justification for abortion. We read. So what the anti-abortion lawyers were saying, that health is too vague of a term. What do you mean health? Because life, for example, in 1845, New York State already allowed for abortion of a quick child, that is a living child in the womb, to protect the life of the mother. Okay, so a lot of times people will mistakenly say the only reason you have late-term abortions are to protect the life of the mother. That is not true. Right at the very beginning of the movement, Roe v. Wade, Doe v. Bolton, that dichotomy was already made. So listen very closely, please. The vagueness argument is set to rest by the decision of the United States versus Veach, where the issue was raised with respect to a District of Columbia statute making abortions criminal unless the same were done as necessary for the preservation of the mother's life or health and under the direction of a competent licensed practitioner of medicine. The statute has been construed to bear upon psychological as well as physical well-being. This being so, the court concluded that the term health presented no problem of vagueness. Indeed, whether a particular operation is necessary for a patient's physical or mental health is a judgment that physicians are obviously called upon to make routinely whenever surgery is considered. This conclusion is equally applicable here. Whether, in the words of the Georgia statute, an abortion is necessary is a professional judgment that the Georgia physician will be called upon to make routinely. We agree with the District Court 319 F sup at 1058 that the medical judgment may be exercised in light of all factors, physical, emotional, psychological, familial, and the woman's age relevant to well-being of the patient. All these factors may relate to health. This allows the attending physician the room he needs to make his best medical judgment, and it is the room that operates for the benefit, not the disadvantage of the pregnant woman. So you see here very clearly that if you, in Washington State, if you can convince the doctor, even though your baby is viable, that you have psychological, emotional, or familial reasons for why you want to kill a baby, your life does not have to be threatened in order to accomplish that goal. My only thing about this is we have got to be completely honest about this. Okay? John, much love to you, bro. Definitely understand that. Like I said, this is going to be a hard one. But you know, we're going to talk about everything here. I appreciate you, John. Honestly, I do. Go comfort your niece, bro. Okay, so what we have is abortions in Washington State and Virginia and Colorado are legal without gestational limits if you can prove a detriment to life or health. And health has within it psychological, emotional, familial factors, etc., etc. Okay? So postpartum depression, if you've had a child and you had wicked postpartum depression and you're 8.5 months along and your boyfriend breaks up with you, you can kill that child in Washington State. That's the law. That's the law. Okay? Okay. So Live Action's claim that they that the baby was past the age of viability makes sense in the context of the law in that state. Now, I want to show you guys something. This is Kathy Tran, and in a couple years ago, New York passed the RHA, the Reproductive Health Act, where it allowed for New York State the same privileges as I just mentioned to you in Washington, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So Kathy Tran was a state representative, and she was trying to get a similar law passed in her state. Watch this exchange between her and one of the legislators in her state. It was a very, very fascinating exchange. Right? Mental health. She tried to say physical health because, again, the line that we constantly hear is the woman's life is in danger. As if we need to abort a 7, 8, 9-month-old child to protect the life of the woman. And he's saying, yeah, that's already covered. What I'm talking about is the mental health aspect. Are you saying we should be able to do this for a child because of mental health? Listen to what she says. Okay, so you could see there where he knows the law and she knows the law. So they're playing chess with the word mental versus physical. They both know the law. They both know Doe v. Bolton. And she specifically, agreed. Yes, up to you could be dilating, and if this law passed, you could kill your child. So when these folks are claiming these were babies 24 to 28 weeks of development, I tend to believe them. Now, again, there are pictures cycling around. I believe them. I do believe that baby looked closer to the 28-week period than the 24-week period. And like I said, I don't believe it's right for you to look at it because there's no reason to. But it was a baby. Okay, people didn't hear the video with Kathy Tran. So I guess what I'll do. All right. I'll download the video and play the actual Kathy Tran video itself. I mean, I did have closed caption, so I don't exactly, but I'll do it. I'll do it anyway, and hopefully my screw up can add some levity to this precarious situation that we all find ourselves in. While I'm waiting for that video to download, I made mention of the RHA situation in New York City where they basically won the right to do the same thing in their state, and you could see right here what their actual stated end goal is. So there it is. We did it on January 22nd, 2019. They passed the Reproductive Health Act, Andrew Cuomo, et cetera, et cetera. That didn't age well. And you can see here where it says, what's next? And under what's next, you can hear no restrictions. Abortion bans and onerous regulation of abortion care cause measurable harm to those who are delayed in accessing care and those who are ultimately denied a wanted abortion. So they're saying no restrictions. So no parents, minors needing access to abortion care and the full range of reproductive health care without the need for parental consent. So you could have a 16-year-old child who is 8 months along and 9 months along, and she could potentially be going into labor, and instead of making a right and going to Montefiore Hospital, she can go make a left and go to Planned Parenthood and kill that child if she could convince her doctor that she would have postpartum depression after the child was born. That's a fact. Now, whether or not you believe that is the right thing to do, the wrong thing to do is separate from whether or not that actually happens. The moral question comes after. The moral question comes, are we that kind of a country where this is something where we say, yeah, like let's co-sign that. That's something we should be able to do. Me personally, I think that's massively extreme. Did I use the words left and right intentionally? No, you're giving me too much credit. I'm not that intelligent. Some of you would say your brother's not intelligent at all, which, I guess that's up for debate. But guys, I mean, there it is. We continue though. So these folks, now I know a lot of you are saying, look, no, I don't want it like that. I mean, no, but you just have to understand that not everybody has the same assumptions as you, and people who are part of the culture. And when I say the culture, I'm talking about the struggle, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice. People who are real activists on both sides know this. So I know it because I've been an activist on for life, for the life of babies. But I've also been in meetings with these folks, and they say it explicitly. Here's Kathy Tran having the discussion about.
This bill would remove the following statutes: trap or targeted regulations of abortion providers.
Here's the clip.
We're simply willing to certify
that we were looking at.
The continuation of the pregnancy would impair the mental health of.
It's informed consent, mandatory ultrasound, and 24-hour delay. It would repeal the requirement that second trimester abortions be performed in a hospital licensed by the State Department of Health. It would repeal the requirement for 2 additional physicians in cases of third trimester abortions.
Delegate Tran.
Yes, sir.
How late in a pregnancy would your bill apply if a physician was simply willing to certify that the continuation of the pregnancy would impair the mental health of the woman? How late are we talking about?
Well, so the way the suggestion that we've made in the bill is to say it's in the third trimester and at the, with the certification of the physician. So
how late in the third trimester would you be able to do that?
It's very unfortunate that our physicians, witnesses, were not able to attend today to speak specifically.
No, I'm talking about your bill. How late in the third trimester could a physician perform an abortion if he indicated it would impair the mental health of the woman?
Or physical health.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm talking about the mental health.
So, through the third trimester.
Again, that's the game of chess that's being played, because they're both familiar with Doe v. Bolton, and she knows and he knows that Doe v. Bolton, she knows that Doe v. Bolton explicitly states that there is a lot of freight that comes with the term health. Here's the actual opinion from Doe v. Bolton, and they're specifically defining what health means in the context of justifying abortions. Indeed, whether a particular operation is necessary for a patient's physical or mental health is a judgment that physicians are obviously called upon to make routinely whenever surgery is considered. This conclusion is equally applicable here, in the case of abortion. Whether, in the words of the Georgia statute, an abortion is necessary is a professional judgment that the Georgia physician will be called upon to make routinely. We agree with District Court 319, F. Sup. at 1058, that the medical judgment may be exercised in light of all factors. Now watch this. Here is their definition of health. This is Doe v. Bolton's definition of health. You had Roe v. Wade right after that. Doe v. Bolton, I think it was the same day actually. Roe v. Wade was about the right to privacy, which gave you it wasn't really about justifying abortion. It was just the right to privacy. A lot of people don't know that. The second was Doe v. Bolton. Doe v. Bolton was specifically about the justifications for abortion. So it was life of the mother and health. And listen to how health is defined. May be exercised in the light of all factors: physical, emotional, psychological, familial, and the woman's age. Okay? So think about this: emotional. You can get an abortion for emotional reasons. You can get an abortion for psychological reasons. You can get an abortion for familial reasons. I'm 8.5 months pregnant. My husband just divorced me. I'm 8.5 months pregnant. I discovered my husband was cheating on me. That's a familial change. All of those things relate to health. Relevant to the well-being of the patient, all these factors may relate to health. So that's why they're wrestling over physical versus mental health, because they know how much freight is being put upon that term. Okay? So we'll watch it again.
Certification of the physician. So
how late in the third trimester would you be able to do that?
It's very unfortunate that our physicians, witnesses, were not able to attend today to speak specifically.
No, I'm
to
talking
that.
about your bill.
Yeah,
how
but
late?
I mean-
How late in the third trimester could a physician perform an abortion if he indicated it would impair the mental health of the woman?
Or physical health.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm talking about the mental health.
So, through the third trimester. The third trimester goes all the way up to 40 weeks.
Okay, but to the end of the third trimester.
Yep, I don't think we have a limit in the bill.
So, where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth, she has physical signs that she is about to give a birth, would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman would
I understand
make at
that. I'm asking
point.
if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
I certainly could have said a week from her.
Okay. So, I'm not exaggerating. That's what she said on the floor of the U.S. Senate. Now, not the floor of the U.S. Senate. That was her state legislature. You saw she cringed when she said she was dilating, but I am not making a caricature of what some of the more aggressive elements of this movement want. And again, from a logical perspective, I don't really see how you could argue against that. Now, again, the moral question is a separate question here. Here's what we know. What we know is that there are 6 states without gestational limits. And what we know is that the term health can be front-loaded with any and every situation. Here's another example of what I mean in regard to late-term abortion in these states. Here's Colorado. Here's drhearn.com. This is an abortionist who's got quality care for women since 1973, and you can see here: first trimester abortion, second trimester abortion, third trimester abortion. Let me get my ugly mug out of the way so that you guys can see for yourself. This is drhearn.com. He's in Colorado. First, second, third trimester abortion. So abortion in the third trimester. So that's beyond even what these folks are saying the state of the child was that they described with a face and hands and fingers. Here's what he says. Patients coming in for third trimester abortion, later abortions, are often seeking services for termination of a desired pregnancy that has developed serious complications. This usually means the discovery of a catastrophic fetal anomaly or genetic disorder that guarantees death, suffering, or serious disability for the baby that would be delivered if the pregnancy were to continue to term. So this makes it sound like, look, I'm only aborting children at the 3rd month if the kid was going to die anyway. Then you can click here and see fetal anomalies. You go to fetal anomalies, and here we go. You go down to paragraph 3. There are generally 2 kinds of problems, fetal anomalies, when it comes to pregnancies like this. One kind involves the observation of or discovery of a genetic disorder that predictably would lead to very serious problems for a young child. This includes things like trisomy 21. That would be Down syndrome. I mean, he literally puts Down syndrome in the parentheses right there. Trisomy 18 and others, and 13 others that are not so frequently well known. Other kind of problem is developmental anomaly. The genetic inheritance may be perfect, but the fetus is not developed normally, etc., etc., etc. So a lot of folks think, oh no, you would only get a mega late term abortion if it was life of the mother. That's not true. Or you'd only get a 3rd trimester abortion if the baby was guaranteed to die. That's not true. If the mother has emotional or familial or psychological reasons for why she wants that child dead, she can have that child killed. If the child is going to be fine, they just have Down syndrome, You can also kill your child in Colorado. He will make it so that you won't have the burden of having a Down syndrome child. So for me, it's just important for us to look at the facts as they are. Here is a very interesting article because I think this is a fascinating article. Here is the National Library of Medicine. Okay? National Library of Medicine, National Center for Biotechnology Information. This article was published 9 April 2019. Okay? Late-term abortion and medical necessity, a failure of science. Okay, now I'm not going to bore you with the entirety of the thing, but look at this article right here. Essentially, Roe allowed abortion without any regulation in the first trimester of pregnancy, but made abortions the second and third trimesters contingent upon demonstrated threats to the pregnant mother's health. Along with rape and incest, therefore, medical necessity became the pathway to unrestricted abortion access. It should be noted that varying definitions of medical necessity for abortion have ricocheted along a continuum with a consideration of a broad range of physical, emotional, psychological, demographic, and familial factors relevant to a woman's well-being. Does that sound familiar? Yes, that sounds exactly like Doe v. Bolton, doesn't it? There you go, Doe v. Bolton. So you know that we're on the right track as far as making sure that our sources are correct. At one extreme, and conditions which place a woman in danger of death on the other. However, while the occasion politician or news reporter will still indicate that late-term abortions are most often performed in the case of severe fetal anomalies, we just read that to you on Dr. Hearn's site, severe fetal anomalies. Listen very closely to what he says. Or to save the woman's life. The trajectory of the peer-reviewed research literature has been obvious for decades. Most late-term abortions are elective, done on healthy women with healthy fetuses, and for the same reasons given by women experiencing first trimester abortions. The Guttmacher Institute has provided a number of reports over 2 decades which have identified the reasons why women choose abortion, and they have consistently reported that childbearing would interfere with their education, work, and ability to care for existing dependents, would be a financial burden, and would disrupt partner relationships. A more recent Guttmacher study focused on abortion after 20 weeks of gestation and similarly concluded that women seeking late-term abortions were not doing so for reasons of fetal anomaly or life endangerment. The study further concluded that late-term abortion seekers were younger and more likely to be unemployed than those seeking earlier-term abortions. It is estimated that about 1% of all abortions in the United States are performed after 20 weeks, approximately 10 to 15K annually. So my question is, I don't want you to see that child. But do you believe that being young and unemployed is an acceptable reason to kill a child that's 9 months old? The Guttmacher Institute, which is essentially the reporting arm of Planned Parenthood, has explicitly stated that the vast majority of reasons for super late-term abortions are not life of the mother or fetal anomaly, or fetal demise. It is because of personal situations pursuant to economics and familial situations, boyfriend broke up with them, etc., etc. Those are the facts. Those are the facts. So I'm just bringing you the facts. Whether or not you believe that is a moral thing, again, is another question. But that's not what we're dealing with here. What we're dealing with here is how did those 5 fetuses come to be found by this woman? That's number one. Number two, the question is how do we go from this is a bunch of cells to this? Now, I just got done reading a selection from a scientific journal. Cattle Murder says, this went from an interesting story to preachy pro-life sermon. So reading from a medical journal with credentialed folks quoting peer-reviewed journals is a pro-life sermon. Okay. I honestly don't know what to do with that. The fact of the matter is, the reason that there were 5 fully developed babies with hands and feet and fingers and a face in Washington State is because Washington State, or Washington, D.C., doesn't have gestational limits. And so you can have a child killed all the way up to the 9th month. And there are other states that are trying, as we've just demonstrated, to make it so that you could be going into labor and dilating and still have the right to kill your child if your boyfriend breaks up with you, or if you're going to have postpartum depression. All right. You're using it to push an agenda. Well, am I using it to push an agenda? No, I'm not. There's a lot of things. Anybody that's ever seen me talk about abortion or debate abortion knows that there's a lot more things I could say. I'm not going to do that here. I just wanted to give background for people because a lot of people don't understand how late-term abortion works in concert with the law. Now, cattle murder, it may be that you knew all about Doe v. Bolton. You might have known how health was defined. You might have known that in 1845, New York State and other states in the Union had already passed laws that made it illegal to have an abortion to protect the life of a mother. But a lot of people don't know this stuff. A lot of people truly believe that the only reason women are having late-term abortions is because their life is in danger. And we've just demonstrated definitively that's not true. It's untrue. It's okay to kill your child due to religious beliefs, like some parents praying instead of calling a doctor. Yeah, I agree. I think that those parents ought to be incarcerated. I really do. I'm a Christian. I believe in the power of prayer and all the rest of it. But I could make a really strong biblical case and secular case that parents who, your kids got cancer, blood transfusion stuff, I really truly believe that if it's explicitly clear that this medication has demonstrable proof of saving the life of this person and you don't do it, that there ought to be severe consequences for that. I really believe that. I think that's important. I think that's important to point out. Being pro-life means being pro-life for all life. So that's immigration, that's war, that's sanctions, that's Medicare for all. It's completely encompassed. But what people have to do, though, is we have to agree that these are what the facts are, and then we have to look within our own conscience and try to figure out what kind of people we want to be. So rest in peace to the kids. I'm glad that there was a mass set for them and a naming ceremony. I was watching somebody and they characterized the children as medical waste. All right, guys. I got to get out of here. Much love to everybody. Like I said, rest in peace to the kids. And if you're a praying person, if you're a praying person, then everybody, that doctor included, who said he would just let those babies die after he tried to kill them, they all need prayer. So there's that. All right, guys. Much love to all of you. Shout out to Sadie. Shout out to Amy Lee. Good night, everyone. In the meantime, love your neighbor, take care of each other. Middle America, we are the media. Till next time, guys.